don't know if their own personal space for social distancing is as strict as mine is.
No one in that courtroom knew that a single folded piece of paper would unravel years of deception, heartbreak, and buried secrets. And yet, as the judge called for order and the whispers faded into a suffocating silence, it became painfully clear. This wasn't just a legal proceeding. This was a reckoning. The disintegration of the Brown family wasn't merely a tale of broken vows or fading love. It was something much darker. A truth long hidden. A betrayal that had been festering behind the polished smiles of reality television. The courtroom was packed. Reporters eager for scandal, distant relatives anxious for answers, curious bystanders who didn't quite know what they were walking into. But for those seated in the heart of that oak-paneled chamber, it was personal. Deeply personal. Kody Brown, once the boisterous, overconfident head of the sister wives family, now looked like a shadow of the man who had captivated TLC viewers for years. His face, pale and worn, was buried behind a stack of legal documents he barely understood. His signature curls were thinner now, streaked with the gray of discontent. His energy had vanished, replaced with the vacant stillness of a man who had run out of excuses. Across from him sat Janelle, resolute, her composure like stone. She didn't need to raise her voice or flinch in fear. Her silence spoke volumes. Her daughter sat beside her, protective and burning with quiet fury. A few rows back, Robyn Brown gripped a balled-up tissue in one trembling hand and a water bottle in the other. Her eyes darted wildly between the judge, the letter in question, and Kody, whose betrayal had become a wound too deep to hide. The moment the attorney stood, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Janelle's lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply held up a weathered brown folder and pulled out one damning piece of paper. "Your Honor, we request that this letter be entered into evidence." The judge raised a skeptical brow, her glasses catching the courtroom light. "What's its relevance to this case?" The lawyer didn't even hesitate. "This letter is a handwritten note from Robyn Brown to Mr. Kody Brown. It was never shared with the other wives. We've authenticated it, and its contents are deeply relevant to the destruction of this family." The silence was immediate and chilling. Robyn froze. Kody's face went blank, eyes locked ahead, like a deer caught in headlights. Janelle's expression didn't shift, but a flicker of something, recognition, passed through her eyes. She had suspected for years that something had been kept from her, and now it was time to face it head-on. The judge gave a tight nod. "Proceed." The letter was slowly unfolded, yellowing at the corners, the ink faded but still readable. The handwriting was unmistakably Robyn's, loopy, stylized cursive. The lawyer exhaled and began reading aloud. "Dear Kody, I don't know how much longer I can pretend everything's fine." That one sentence alone sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Robyn's breathing grew heavy. She covered her face. Kody's fingers twitched. Janelle remained stone still. The letter continued, each sentence tearing through years of constructed narratives and false sisterhood. "They stare at me with resentment. I did try to love them. I swear I did. But I don't belong to them. I belong to you. And maybe that's the real problem." Somewhere in the room, someone gasped. Someone else shifted in their seat uncomfortably. Even the court clerk glanced up, wide-eyed. This wasn't a letter. It was a confession. Robyn's voice echoed in ink, raw, possessive, unapologetic. "I'm tired of giving up our peace for their comfort. I'm tired of apologizing for loving you." The lawyer paused, his voice heavy with gravity, then read the part that shattered whatever illusion was left. "If it's me or them, please choose peace. Please choose me." The letter, written 18 months before Janelle formally separated from Kody, made something chillingly clear. Robyn had asked for this fracture. Not out loud, not in front of cameras, but in writing. She had asked Kody to choose her and let go of everything else. And he had. It explained the tension, the distance, the passive-aggressive comments. It explained why the other wives felt invisible. And it confirmed what Janelle had feared for years, that this wasn't an accident. It was orchestrated. Kody shifted in, his seat, chest rising and falling like a man drowning. "It was never meant to be discovered," he muttered suddenly, almost like a ghost speaking into the void. The judge's face hardened. "Mr. Brown, you'll speak when asked." But the damage was done. His outburst confirmed what everyone already suspected. He had hidden the letter. He had protected Robyn. He had let the rest of the family break, while he clung to a fantasy with one wife. Robyn's body trembled now. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, but she didn't respond. She was lost in the reality of what she'd unleashed. Janelle finally stood. No notes, no theatrics. Just years of pain in her voice.
Because I can't do anything else. A lot more exposure to the kids, but then no exposure to Janelle's kids.
"This is what I always knew," she said, her tone even but resolute. He made his choice. He just didn't have the guts to say it out loud. She turned toward Robyn, eyes cold and full of heartbreak. "You wanted to be the last wife standing, and now you are." Robyn's lips trembled, her face flushed, but she said nothing. Janelle didn't stop. "You could have been honest. You could have told us. But you chose to write secret letters. You chose to sit back and let us collapse while you built your future with him." The judge raised her hand. "That's enough for now, Ms. Brown. You'll have your chance during your full statement in session 3. Janelle gave a slight nod and sat. The entire courtroom was suspended in a kind of stunned paralysis. What had been read aloud wasn't just a piece of paper. It was the moment everything changed. The courtroom emptied slowly after that. No one dared make eye contact. The letter had detonated a truth bomb in the middle of a family already in ruins. It had confirmed what fans of the show suspected for years, that behind the scenes of Sister Wives was favoritism, secrecy, and emotional sabotage. That Kody had fallen hard and blindly for one woman, and in doing so, had emotionally abandoned all the others. That Robyn had wanted something permanent and exclusive, and she got it. But at what cost? As the next court session began, the emotional residue still hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Robyn looked small in her chair, visibly shaking, her eyes bloodshot. She had remained silent through the reading of the letter, but now it was her turn to speak. Everyone braced for what was coming. Some expected deflection. Others hoped for remorse. What they got was complicated. Her lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, Mrs. Robyn Brown would like to make a statement in regard to the letter." The judge nodded. Slowly, Robyn rose to her feet, clutching a tissue in one hand and the letter in the other. This time it was a photocopy, but it held the same power. She didn't look at Kody. She didn't look at Janelle. She looked down, as if hoping the floor might open up and swallow her whole. "I wrote this letter 2 years ago," she began, her voice trembling. "I was overwhelmed. I was lost. I was hurt. I felt rejected. I didn't feel like a wife. I didn't feel like a sister. I felt alone." Her words came out slowly, but each one was laced with decades of guilt and longing. That night, I remember Kody had come back after spending days away. I was crying. I was tired. I felt like an outsider in a family I desperately wanted to belong to. She paused, trying to steady her voice. "So I wrote. I wrote to him, not to manipulate, not to destroy, but to survive. I never meant for anyone else to read it." She glanced briefly at the judge, who gave her a nod to continue. "The words I used were raw. And yes, they were selfish, but they were honest." Then she lifted the copy of the letter and read it again, this time in her own voice. "Kody, I know they'll never love me the way you do. I never wanted that to be an insult. That was heartbreak." The room exhaled as if finally taking a breath. Robyn's voice cracked and a tear slid down her cheek. "I didn't want them to suffer, but I also didn't want to lose him. That's the truth." As she lowered the paper and looked at the judge, there was a moment, brief and fragile, when Robyn didn't seem like the villain. She seemed like someone who had wanted love and chosen to protect it at the cost of everything else. But the damage was already done. The courtroom had heard the letter. Janelle had spoken her truth. And Kody, well, Kody had already made his choice. I began to see loyalty as something owed to me, not something I had to earn. And I stopped listening, not just to my wives, but to my kids, to the people who built a life with me, trusted me. I stopped hearing them when they told me they were in pain. His voice cracked then, a break in the wall he'd constructed for decades. His shoulders sagged under the weight of regret. "Janelle," he said, turning fully toward her now, "you were the anchor of that family more times than I can count. You carried burdens I didn't see because I wasn't willing to look. I let you down. I let all of you down." She didn't nod. She didn't blink. She just watched him. "To my children," he continued, voice hoarse now, "I thought I was giving you a better life. I thought by being present in different ways, I was somehow being fair. But all I did was create absence. I see that now. I feel it now." The courtroom remained still. A storm was passing through, and no one dared interrupt it. "And Robyn," he added, his tone shifting slightly, "you were there when I needed someone, and I leaned on you too hard. I made you a shield. I let you carry my withdrawal and called it protection. That wasn't fair, to you or to anyone else." Robyn looked like she might collapse, her face flushed with guilt and grief, but she said nothing. "The letter," Kody said, glancing at the now infamous paper on the table. "That letter wasn't a surprise to me. I read it and didn't burn it. I didn't deny it. I used it. Not because Robyn manipulated me, but because it gave me an excuse to stop doing the hard work, to stop trying to hold everyone together." He stepped back from the stand, now wringing his hands, the facade gone. "I let love become selective, and I let faith become favoritism. I wasn't honest, and I wasn't brave. And now, I'm standing in this courtroom because the truth came too late." He looked directly at the judge. "Whatever comes next, I won't contest it. Not a single word. My family deserves better than the man I was." Then he turned and walked slowly back to his seat. There was no applause, no gasps, just stillness. It was the kind of moment where no one won, but something still broke loose, like the final branch falling in a long dead tree. Not because someone pushed it, but because the weight had simply become too much to bear. The judge took a deep breath. "Let the record reflect that Mr. Brown has acknowledged full responsibility for the emotional and relational breakdown described in this case. We'll proceed with final testimonies tomorrow at 9 a.m. Gavel. Session closed. But something else had closed too. The illusion that the Browns were anything close to what they once presented to the world. Outside the courthouse, the clouds hung low. And for the first time in a very long time, the world saw not a reality, TV family, not a controversy or scandal, but the aftermath of real generational heartbreak. And maybe, just maybe, the start of healing. Kody Brown sat motionless on the courthouse bench, his figure weighed down not just by age, but by a truth that had come far too late. His voice was quiet now, worn from days of testimony, confessions, and decades of denial. "I started searching for peace," he whispered, "not within the family, but outside of it." His words echoed in the solemn courtroom, directed not at his wives, not even at the judge, but at something deeper, something broken within himself. "Everywhere I turned, there was fire," he continued. "Every home I stepped into, someone needed, something I didn't know how to give anymore. I began to pull back. I shut down." Then, with a voice cracking under years of unresolved guilt, he uttered the name that had changed everything. "Robyn. Robyn gave me peace, and I clung to it like a drowning man to driftwood." The courtroom held its breath. He turned to Janelle, his eyes bloodshot and rimmed with unshed tears. "I didn't mean to leave you or the kids. I just forgot how to fix things. And instead of trying harder, I disappeared. I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, the noise would go away, that someone else would fix it." His voice faltered as he recounted the letter. "I let it sit in a drawer for 2 years. I read it once and knew if anyone else saw it, everything would fall apart. That letter said all the things I was too cowardly to say." He turned to Robyn again. "You never forced me into anything, but you were the only person left who didn't look at me with disappointment. I felt enough in your home, and I'm sorry that Safety came at the cost of everyone else's abandonment. His hands trembled. I thought I was choosing peace, but I was running from hard conversations, from obligations, from the family I stretched too thin, and it broke. He paused. The room remained still. Janelle didn't move, but the tears welling in her eyes made her pain plain. Then Kody's voice cracked into something barely human. Garrison's death shattered something in me. I wasn't there when he needed me most. He reached out, and I didn't reach back. I encouraged him to give up, not by what I said, but by what I failed to say. Silence. Even the judge leaned forward, her hands clasped. I stopped going to Christmas because I couldn't face the disappointment. I stopped calling because I felt like I was always losing. But I see now. I lost your trust, your respect, your love. He gestured weakly to the empty chair beside him. I thought I could love you all equally. I believed I could expand my heart into 4 homes. But I kept giving more to Robyn. Not because she asked, but because I allowed it. And worst of all, I knew you all saw it. I saw it too. And I did nothing. He turned to the judge. I don't deserve forgiveness. My children may never speak to me again. I accept that. But I need to say this. Even if it's too late, keeping secrets didn't keep anyone safe. It ruined everything. There was no sound, no legal team rising, no gavel striking. The courtroom was frozen in the weight of raw, unfiltered truth. Finally, the judge spoke gently. Mr. Brown, do you have anything else to say? His voice was a whisper. Just this. If you're building a family and you feel like you're always choosing who to disappoint, stop. Speak the truth. I didn't. And this is the price. He sat down, utterly hollowed out. The courtroom was still, not just from shock, but recognition. Sometimes the villain isn't the one who yells. Sometimes he's the one who walks away when the truth needs to be said. And finally, Kody Brown had said it, not for healing, but for honesty. The silence settled. Then, the gavel rose one last time. With that final strike, the last illusion shattered. A family that had unraveled slowly for years was now officially, irreversibly dissolved. The judge delivered the ruling. Property, finances, and assets would be divided equally between the 4 wives. Robyn, Janelle, Christine, and Meri, all recognized for years of unpaid labor and sacrifice. No reaction, because equity does not always feel like justice. Then came the ruling on custody. Robyn would have full legal and physical custody of her children with Kody. His visitation, supervised only, pending emotional therapy and court assessment. Robyn's tear fell silently. Kody didn't flinch. The final blow regarding his adult children with Janelle. Visitation and contact will be at their discretion only. Mr. Brown is to initiate no communication without written consent. Janelle's pain showed in her throat, her tightened shoulders. Kody lowered his head. The gavel fell again. Final. The room emptied like a funeral. Journalists swarmed outside. Robyn's exit. Robyn left first, escorted quickly by her lawyer. No words, no answers, only a tear-streaked face, and a woman once called the favorite, now more alone than ever. Janelle's exit. She walked out slowly, her grown children beside her like guardians. A reporter asked, "Your message to your family?" She paused, voice calm. He didn't break us. He just showed us who he really was. Kody's exit. He didn't leave right away. He sat alone, letter in hand, a crumpled paper that once asked him to choose peace, now a court document. The letter didn't lie. He had chosen peace, but it cost him everything. Eventually, the bailiff approached. "Mr. Brown, the courtroom is closed." He stood and walked out alone. No wives, no children, only cameras. He descended the steps, once the head of a family, now just a man clutching regret. Outside, the world spun on. Journalists packed up. The courthouse emptied. He sat on the cold steps, still holding the letter. Once private, now public. His legacy, once built on unity, now reduced to signatures and restrictions. Not a father, not a husband, just a name in a custody file. He didn't read the letter again. He didn't need to. Some truths don't change, even when spoken too late. And inside that empty courtroom, the final breath of a family faded into silence. Kody Brown, once a man with 4 wives and dozens of children, was now just a man with a letter, and no one left waiting for him to come home.